Doing well. It's me Chetan Margar and welcome to my channel. Okay, let's start. How sun to visit after a disaster? As flood, storm and wildfire intensify around the world, these are a few key questions to ask when considering traveling to a destination recovering from a natural disaster. Less than a week after Hurricane Melissa Pamlia, Jamaica, leaving 72% of residents without electricity and causing as estimated 6 billion to 7 billion worth of damage. The country tourism minister stated that he expected the Iceland to welcome travelers in time for its peak tourism season starting in 15 December. Given that the Category 5 storm was one of the strongest to ever hit the Caribbean and thousands of people remain in shelters across Jamaica, many would be visitors. Many wonder when it's appropriate to return to that battered island and how they should act once they land. It's a dilemma that travelers may increasingly face. Experts say that as the climate crisis intensifies, the strength and frequency of these extreme storms, as well as flood, fire, and thunderstorms, will only continue to increase as all these events become more common. Travelers will need to negative not only when it's safe to visit after a disaster, but also when it's sensible. Here are some important questions to ask before booking a trip or recovering destination. Is your visit contributing to the local community? After Hurricane Maria, when devastated Rico in 2017, officials start welcoming visitors back to the island just 3 months after the storm. Those travelers were happy to return. Many residents who were still without power and running water quickly found themselves restful of tourism at a time when locals still lacked basic service. I think it left a best taste in local mouth, explained Mikey Cordaro, an activities and co-founder of Defend Puerto Rico Media Collective. You are enjoying my Iceland, you are enjoying my community, you are enjoying what the local people built, but at the end of the day, it doesn't tackle back down to us. While Quadrado acknowledged that the situation wasn't so much the fault of visitors themselves, he feels strongly that both the government and guests should do a better job to ensure that their money actually goes toward helping the local community. Especially after a disaster, this is a particularly sticky issue in a Caribbean, while all include exclusive resorts and cruise ship make up much of the tourism landscape, making a point of stay at locally run hotels served with local vendors and it all at locally owned restaurant can help in hard time by ensuring that your tourist dollars are going directly to the affected community rather than to large companies based scale where? Are you helping or just watching? After Hurricane Katrina tore thought New Orleans in 2005, leaving almost 1,400 residential dead and countless homes and demolished. A cottage industry of Katrina tours popped up around the city in the following week to show that devastation to visitors, a move that many local found problematic. They were still both up in the tree and house sitting on top of birds. Recall Jason Brady when lives in the city both pre and post Katrina. It was insane. In response to public outcry, city eventually banned tour of Lower Manhattan were one of the areas most devastated by the storm. No one wants to be cleaning out the remnant of the home that they have owned for decades or that's been in their family for generation and have a tour bus and drive by, said Kelly Scholes, Senior Vice President of Communication for the City Tourism Bureau, New Orleans and Company. While family also lost everything in the storm. However, the instance focus on the city after a storm did bring another type of tourist whose positive impact was deeply lived. Many of our visitors initially, init- many of our visitors initially were that we call volunteerism who come here because they want to help or rebuild or crunch or school. Shelter explained. We had college kids come help clean, but my family house for their spring break like you could be a beach. But you choose to come good somebody home, which is a physically and emotionally drilling process. For schools, tourism was also an important way to help keep the city's culture alive. She pointed to one of the campaigns to city rain when welcoming tourism back after the storm. Soil is waterproof note, note to the importance of preserving and the unique music, food, and practice that make the city to special as something that also help to bluster resident pride after the devastation. It's important to keep in mind the devastating impact these events have on local and to be respectful of the people still struggling to recover. Organization kill the Red Cross, habit of humanity, and local church and other community organizations often offer volunteer community for both local and visitor alike in the wake of disaster, as they did during the flooding in Kentucky in 2022, Hurricane Idea in 2021, and during the rash of tornadoes that tore through the Midwest US in 2023. Are you listening to the local? In 2023, wildfire burned through the island of Maui in Hawaii, leaving the historic community of Lahania particularly devastated. In response, the state's governor called for a evacuation of tourists as well as a temporary halt on incoming visitors so that that rescue and attend could be focused on the residents who need in the most of the time. Explain Ilhani and Geoshan Public Affairs offer that the Hawaii Tourism Authority. The moratorium on travel in the Iceland lasted about a week before tourism was slowly passed back in. The key to success, however, was that the local played a major role in the reopening. Our Department of Health did a rapid need assessment. Johnson said, just asking disaster survive, what is your most critical need right now? More than a third of respondents listed either financial stability or housing stability or some combination of that. Understanding that when we were about 60,000 jobs powered by visitor spending, it was clear that was needed to recover travel demand to the island of Maui. Officially also made sure that when visitors were allowed back on the island, they were respectful of these still struggling to restart their lives by making devastated neighborhood of limits to tourism. Instead, visitors were encouraged to support the community in their way, and third visitor number are still is recovered. Many people rose to the challenge. The clear communication and local first approach put forth by the Iceland leadership were reflected back by visitors in Momi for of need, the outputting of alham from around the world, whatever it was, monetary donated for after of afters offers of expertise just player and good voice. It was really heartwarming to see, said Jason. So, how soon is too soon? While Jason acknowledged that there no easy answer of when place should start welcoming visitors after a disaster, he feels there were some clear guidelines that both traveler and destinations should follow. Top of mind in honest and transparent communication about the impact of the disaster from official and respectful behavior to affected resident from visitor. But perhaps more importance that the it wa- is that everyone does their part to make sure that the reopening of tourism support that community at large. How to be a respectful visitor after a disaster? Read up. Be sure to read of the most recent information put out by the destination itself. By local businesses need your dollar more than ever after a disaster. Be respectful. Local invisibly struggle to rebuild their lives after a disaster. So it's important to the mindful and sensitive as a visitor. Tourism is an important phase of any community recover post disaster, but you cannot let the economic activities lead everything. He said, you have you have real people who experience the real drama, who have different needs for their recovery. Restoring the economy active area in one factor to consider, but it cannot be the only factor. You cannot let the economic recovery outpace the people recovery. This story was originally published in 2014 and has since been updated. La, la. It sounds kind of crazy how ripples in the high atmosphere warn scientists of a tsunami in real time. Tsunami are notoriously difficult to spot on the open ocean as they race toward shore. But in the summer of 2025, scientists watched one unfold as it happened. It was the most powerful earthquake anyone had seen for nearly 15 years. It struck off the far western coast of Russian Kamkota Peninsula in July 2025, and 8.8 magnitude earthquake that also triggered a tsunami with wave racing toward at the more than 400 Mbps 644 km per hour within minute. Alarms sound in communities around the Pacific Ocean. Millions of people were ordered to evacuate in the tense hour that followed, including at least 2 million in Japan alone. But as as the wave prepared out across in the ocean, it triggered something other than just fear. It created a ripple in Earth atmosphere. The ocean moving up and down across such as a vast area was disturbing the atmosphere above it a massive with a global satellite navigation signal, but it disturbance also allows scientists to spot the tsunami almost in the real time. Purely by chance, on the previous day, US Space Agency NASA had added an artificial intelligence component to a disaster alert system called Gardenia, enabling it to flag major event to scientists automatically roughly 20 minutes after the Kamchatka earthquake happened. Tsunami watcher knew that waves were heading for Hawaii 3 to 4, 30 to 40 minutes before they arrived. Fortunately, fear of widespread damage from a tsunami were not realistic on the ocean. On this ocean, the wave that hit Hawaii were in 5 feet 1.7 meter high, causing only minor flooding and no sharp damage. Most of the tsunami energy dissipating in the open ocean when the large wave hit un, unplatted area, but had it been worse, those extra minutes of warning could have been crucial. The episode provide that NASA had a system that can, given the right condition, detect a tsunami well in advance of its arrival on a Catalan just by listening to radio signal using by orbiting global navigation satellite as they communicate with ground station on Earth. The same approach can even detect volcanic eruption, rocket launch, and underground nuclear weapon test. They were able to say it's pretty much real time. There is a tsunami, say Jeffrey Andrusian, a data scientist at the US National Center for Atmospheric Research who helped develop the Guardian system, and isn't admitting that year ago when he first heard about proposal for the technology which he later helped to develop the thought it sounded kind of crazy. The idea of using radio signal beaming between ground-based receiver and satellite for near real-time tsunami detect have been around for a decade. A handful of academic papers in 1970s discussed such a system in principle, but only in the 2020s did it become a really reality with the arrival of Gagarin in 2022. Anderson and authorities from NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, US published a study that introduced introduced key detail in the system. The reason why navigation satellite signal can receive a tsunami is become of the up and down motion of the sea. When a tsunami being to form in the open ocean, its wave may not be very high, perhaps between 10 to 15 centimeter, 4 to 20 inches. It's almost invisible when it's traveling in the open ocean. Say you can't hear wave. A researcher in Maria engaging at the University of Michigan who specializes in ocean wave dynamic. The undulation, however, acquired an gigantic gigantic scale, moving extremely large number of water at once. The movement dissipates their air above it, which distributes the atmosphere high up, creating ripple and the layer of charged particle that from the iron space some 30 to 190 miles above the Earth's surface. The ripple alter the number of electric present and part of the ionosphere. You have iconic reaction. You sense the temperature you get out of whack. Say Michael Heike, professor, imagine immediates of physics of invasive rattle around the university in Andandra Beach, Florida, who have studied those atmospheric wave. Navigation satellites use deal frequently to communicate with ground station on Earth, so increase in the number of electrons in the ionosphere can become unusual delay and the limit it takes for a takes for these two single to arrive. By measuring those delay, systems such as Gardenia can detect whether some time were to going on the ionosphere. GPS engine GP, GPS engineer already know that signal get disturbed in this way. They have to adjust further noise to ensure that navigation system remain accurate. But it was Earth scientists who realized all that noise could be unused to detect tsunamis. It's smart people thinking outside of the box. Say Anderson, in recent years, researchers have been able to see the fingerprints of tsunami and volcanoes in data from the ionosphere. Okay, thank you guys.